Hey, it's Tay with Mom on the Spectrum, and I'm so glad to be back today. I know that it's been a while since I've posted a full video. It has been all hands on deck over here, and I personally just feel like I have been in one long meltdown. I've got my putty today because I'm feeling especially stimmy, and I wanted to talk today about my recent interview experience with a company. It's my first interview that I've had since I decided to change careers, which is really exciting. I'm transitioning from a private flute teacher, which I was for a decade, to a software developer. Might seem a little bit stereotypical for an autistic person, but I'm really excited to have found this field. My brain seems to be a good fit for this kind of work, but the job process is so exhausting. I know it is for everyone, but there was a particular part of the experience that really stuck out to me this time that I felt like was just not fair for people on the spectrum. And I've had a hard time processing it, but I wanted to share what I have learned from this part of the process so far with you today, and also start a discussion for how we can make the interview process more accessible for us, because that's really important. And I feel like people on the spectrum have such a great range of strengths. We're just such a great asset to any company. And so I feel like if we can make the interview process easier to navigate, it will not only help our mental health and help us become more employable, but it will help companies find higher levels of talent and create more well-rounded organizations that are more representative of the full spectrum of awesome humans. I had a quick little short video that I posted this week with some shout outs in the midst of my long continuous shutdown that I feel like I've been in for the past month. Some days when I have energy, I hop on and I look at comments, and I'm also getting emails now, and I'm getting messages on Instagram. I am so energized by y'all. I really truly mean it when I say I feel like y'all have helped me through this big shutdown. Y'all are so encouraging, and one thing that I think is so cool about people on the spectrum is I just have not seen invalidation. It's like my experiences are not questioned. They're just like, yes. How can we help you? Take the time you need, please rest. So thank y'all so much for that, and I hope that you give that back to yourself as well. Just giving yourself grace and time and patience. And one thing that y'all are really helping me see is just to quit expecting myself to all of a sudden operate on neurotypical standards and timelines. I keep falling into that trap, and y'all keep reminding me that there's grace and that there's a need to accept where I am at and not try to make that something that it's not. So thank y'all so much. Thank y'all for helping me through this time. It's been much appreciated. I've been really excited to get back and make videos. I just haven't had the energy or the capacity to do it. My list of videos, I wish I could just shoot all day and edit all day and post all day, because I have so many ideas and so many responses to what y'all are sharing with me. But let's focus today on the interview process. But we can't get started until you subscribe, so please make sure that you subscribe, because that helps my videos show up for other people like you and me who are looking for resources and looking to feel seen. Okay, the interview process. Okay, so first of all, I know this is a difficult process for everyone. Nobody likes the job hunt, right? This is excruciatingly draining. There's this secret language that's spoken on resumes and in interviews. It's like you can't be yourself. You can't be a normal human. You have to use this jargon and understand these concepts that people don't say in real life. People don't talk the way that people write on resumes. Do you know what I'm saying? And so it's we're already trying so hard to figure out what neurotypicals want of us and how to interact in the world and the right thing to say. But then now there's this career language, and you don't have to talk like this when you get the job. If you want the job, you have to figure out the right jargon to say, and you have to figure out the right time to say it, and you have to be able to navigate all of these confusing concepts that you may or may not actually need to know once you actually have the job. It's exhausting. Well, I got my first interview with an incredible tech company. I was so excited. It's for an internship position. Really cool opportunity to continue to grow and expand my skills. I was pumped to get the interview. On this company's website, they boast diversity and representation of people from all backgrounds. There was a big deal whenever I submitted my application. I could choose whether or not to disclose if I have a disability. Autism was on the list. Don't get me started about whether or not it's a disability. That's the topic for another day, and we have to focus on what's at hand. Interview process. All that to say, they focus on hiring a certain percentage of people with disabilities to make up their workforce. So with all of these things in mind, I felt like this might be a safer place for me to be more of myself and not feel so rigid and constricted in terms of how I present myself to a completely new group of people. And so I even let myself think, I kind of practiced working through my interview. If there was an opportunity to share that I was autistic, I was going to do so, because the man who interviewed me, he had a certification in diversity hiring. I feel like there's many autistic traits that make me a better qualified candidate for certain jobs. You might want to check out one of my other videos about the top autistic strengths. I mentioned several of them in that video. So I wanted to tell myself, you can share that information if it feels safe. Well, before I got to the interview process, I was emailed a PDF with suggestions for how to approach the interview. Now, in theory, this should be helpful because we tend to like to know what to expect. So having kind of a rundown or a visual schedule of what it's going to be like, what to expect, that can be really helpful. But along with that came stipulations for how to act. And I'm going to read you some of the things that were on that PDF. No joke, this is direct quote, not my words. This is a big tech company, boasts diversity and inclusion, or representing all walks of life. I need to mention that this was a virtual interview. Are you ready? I don't know if you're ready. Really, you might, I feel like I need a trigger warning or something. Okay, first of all, do not have a pet on your lap. That's sad. We'll talk about it more in a second. Dress professionally and avoid bright colors. Boo. All right, this is the part. Buckle up, okay? When listening, nod and smile to show you are engaged. Maintain good eye contact. Find a nice, comfortable balance between leaning forward and reclining too far back. Use hand gestures when appropriate. Try not to sway, shake, or otherwise move too much. Basically, don't be autistic, okay? Just don't do it. We don't want you to do that. What are we supposed to do with that? Don't worry, I've already written an email to HR. It was nice. I was trying to come from the perspective of, hey, let's learn how to better address these situations so that we can include more people. Rules can create such a safety net for us, but what do we do when the rules like this are hurtful to us? When the rules say don't operate how you are inclined to operate, shut that down and do this instead. That's really confusing. It's really hurtful. And if I'm going to be honest, that's part of what has lengthened my shutdown. Is after this interview that night, I kind of had a panic attack. And I don't even need to say kind of, I had a panic attack. It's kind of hard to share that on YouTube, but full disclosure, because all of these things, we can put ourselves in this box sometimes and we can do all these things and it seems okay, but then later on everything just starts to crack. It's like the spoon theory, if y'all have heard of the spoon theory, where you have a certain set number of spoons that you can give every day. Certain activities require a different amount of spoons, and all of a sudden you're out of spoons and then you don't have any patience or stamina left for anything else. So that interview, whether or not I realized it, it took all my spoons. And then later that night, when I tried to do anything, my body was like, no. I started freaking out a little bit. So that's one of the really frustrating things for me about being on the spectrum, is that I can be really upset about something, but it doesn't come out when I'm experiencing it. It comes out later. And that's really confusing for the people who love me. And that's really confusing for myself. It's really hard to isolate what's bothering me because it's on a delayed timeline. But I started realizing, I knew that the interview process made me really anxious and confused and overwhelmed. But it wasn't until I went back and looked at this list that I realized, oh my gosh, this was a big deal that they asked me to do all of these things. So let's unpack it a little bit. So not having a pet in your lap, I get it, right? Pets can be super distracting. But if you're a neurodivergent person, a pet can be your key to comfort. It can be your key to communication. It can be your key to calm. If you have a pet in your lap, that might be the difference between acing the interview and having a shutdown. So right away, this is one of the first things on the list. It just tells me, hey, we're not really open to doing things differently. We say we are, but you have to be different within certain parameters that are okay to us. Okay, dressing professionally and avoiding bright colors. Okay, so we've always been taught to dress professionally for interviews, but this has always been a stressful thing to me. Understanding what to wear in certain circumstances has always been really hard for me to navigate. I know one time at one of my first jobs, I wore something that I actually got in trouble for. I didn't realize that it was inappropriate for the situation. I have a hard time with straps. What's the appropriate length for a strap? Like a short sleeve shirt, a tank. I don't understand what I should wear in certain instances, and I spend way too much time thinking about it and stressing about it. And so earlier this year, I had made a point of just getting rid of a lot of things in my closet that didn't feel good to me. I wanted to just dress comfortably and not try to mask and wear these things that other people wanted me to wear. Well, then when I see dress professionally and avoid bright colors, I know y'all have seen, first of all, my thumbnails, how colorful they are. I love color, okay? And I know so many of y'all do too. I see it in your art. art. I see it in the way that you create. Colors are so important to so many of us on the spectrum. I went shopping that morning to try to find something to wear because I was freaking out a little bit. I didn't feel like I had anything that was appropriate because I didn't understand what look to go for. And I would find these things that I really liked that really stood out to me, like jewel tones, you know, like this really cool blue or like a purpley pink. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, oh no, I can't wear bright colors. I can't wear bright colors. And so I started off the morning really upset because I couldn't figure out how I was supposed to dress. So I spent a lot of time and energy on that. I spent a lot of spoons on that. I think I tried on 20 different shirts in the dressing room. And what I ended up doing, I'm pretty proud of it. I'm gonna try to put a picture up because I think I tapped into something here. I ended up just wearing a comfortable black t-shirt that I had at home. I wore black skinny jeans because those are more professional than regular jeans. And then I just found a cute jacket to go on top of it so that I could feel comfortable but look a little bit dressier. So I found like kind of like a business jacket. And then I put gold jewelry on, so kind of like made it snazzy. So anyways, I spent a lot of spoons trying to figure out what to wear because they gave me these parameters. And then I was worried about checking all the boxes for them in terms of making eye contact and using the right hand gestures. It's something I can normally do pretty well because I've learned how to mask and I've learned how to do those neurotypical things. But whenever it's in the context of a job interview and they're like highlighting that I need to make sure I'm doing these things, I'm sure a lot of y'all understand me when I say that I can be in a conversation talking to someone and hear nothing that they're saying, because in my head I'm thinking through all of the things that I need to be doing in order to be a part of that conversation. Am I making eye contact? Am I responding to things that they ask me? Am I using the right words? And sometimes, let me know if you've experienced this too, I'll say something and judging by the look on their face or like how the energy changes, I'm like, oh, I don't know that most people say things like that. What did I say that was different? Or what did I say that made them think that was odd? And so then in my head, I'm thinking like, what did I say? How did I say it? What word did I say? Was I looking in a weird direction? Why did they look at me like that? So it's a lot of that, like not knowing how to interpret the facial expressions or the body language on the other side of the conversation, and then only being able to think about the mistakes or why it's coming across differently than I wanted it to. In addition to all these things that were happening, he kept reminding me how much time we had left in the interview. He would say, okay, we've got 8 minutes left. We've got 4 minutes left. So trying to pack all of this into 30 minutes, trying to navigate all of this mental chatter and then having it put on a stopwatch, I was like a hamster on a wheel in my head over and over and over again. And I feel like the questions that they ask, they want you to be yourself and they want you to give your take on things, but it's like they also don't. They also want to hear the right thing, and there's certain ways that you're supposed to answer questions. If you Google, how to respond to interview questions, it's like a formula. Typically, sometimes we can be good at following formulas, but I feel like this is kind of like a constantly changing moving target formula. Depends on the person you're talking to, the company that you're interviewing for, and you never really know what you're supposed to say. Because if I really give my perspective and what I think and what I feel, it's going to be different than what you're used to hearing, because I've always thought just a little bit differently than the person next to me. You say you want that on your website, you encourage that, but the whole process that you follow screams the opposite. There's also a very serious tone in interviews, kind of like, don't F this up. When you're trying to be yourself and you're met with this serious presence on the other side of the conversation, that's hard to know what to do with too. After the interview was over, I actually did really well because I made myself look like I was fine. Just to reiterate, I wasn't, because I later had a panic attack, delayed response. He then told me that I had an assignment that I needed to complete in order to go to the second round of interviews, and that assignment was due in 48 hours. I'm all for that. Great, give me an assignment, let me prove my capabilities to you. Don't spring it on me. Don't give me 48 hours to do it. As you can imagine, and I bet some of you are kind of like starting to sweat through your clothes right now, I'm sorry to make you stressed out. It's hard. Like, give me the assignment, but let me know, like, okay, the next thing coming up is an assignment. You're gonna need 48 hours to complete it. When would be a good time for me to send this to you? What questions do you have about the assignment? Here's exactly what we're looking for. But it was just like, you got 48 hours, I'm gonna send it over to you. And on the instructions, it's like, please do not take more than 48 hours. Please send this back within 48 hours. They emphasized it several times. So what had to happen, because my brain is now kind of going toward shutdown mode, the next day I wake up and my brain's just foggy. I can't think. I can't push through it, because pushing through it just makes it worse. I gave it my best shot for 48 hours. I did the best that I could, and I ended up asking for an extension. He granted me the extension. He was very kind about that. but the overall process left me so depleted. And also just frustrated for the autistic community, for myself, and for other people who are in similar situations. Because we're such an asset to the workforce. We are so loyal. We are so capable. There's so many different things that we can add to a company. And I feel like there's a lot of obstacles to getting us where we need to be. My thoughts right now, and I would love to hear yours as well. I do like that they sent me something beforehand with expectations. I opened it up and I was like, oh, this could be super, no. It wasn't super helpful. It could be. So keep the list of expectations. Let there be a lot of wiggle room. Hey, we typically don't like animals in the room, but if yours is calm and helps you feel more present, we encourage that. Anything like that. We encourage reciprocal communication, whatever that might look like for you. Just more wiggle room, more of an acknowledgement that, hey, where you're coming from might be a little bit different than where I'm coming from, and you don't have to fit yourself in a box in order to ace this interview. If there's going to be any follow-up assignment, if that can be mentioned and then scheduled rather than mentioned and assigned. And I think it could be really cool. Obviously, this would be a big endeavor. There was some type of categorization we could have for companies who aim to employ neurodivergent people. If we could have some type of category for that and certain types of qualifications for those organizations, like as this type of organization, we offer alternate interview experiences, bring your pet to work day. I'm just kind of spitballing here, but if there was some type of classification we could have for different organizations who truly wanted to be open to neurodivergent workers, there could be some type of standard that they're held to so that we can start getting on the same page. I don't really know the answer, but I know that we need to start talking about it more. And I know that it was extremely draining to go through this process. And I don't want us all to have to go through this. It's hard enough some days to get out of bed and to deal with unexpected sensory experiences. It takes a lot of work just to be us. And so anything extra that stands in the way, I just want to be able to find a way to make things a little easier, to make things a little bit more enjoyable, to decrease the level of anxiety that we're used to living with every day. I definitely think that there's room for growth, and I'm really interested to hear in the comments what ideas y'all have for making the interview process, the job search process more accessible for people on the spectrum, and what types of experiences you've had. Does anyone know of any type of initiative for classifications of organizations that want to employ neurodivergent people? That would be cool to learn more about that and learn if anybody's doing anything in that arena right now. But overall, I just want to say, if you've experienced something like this, you are not alone. It totally sucks. It's totally exhausting. There's this level of exhaustion to it that you really can't communicate. So even all these words that I've shared, this experience that I've shared in the video, if you're on the spectrum, you know that that still doesn't quite articulate the tiredness that your body is carrying. There's just kind of like this wiped out, like, man, for other people, this just seems more manageable, and that can feel like a really big weight. So you're not alone. I think if we can start talking more about stuff like this, that's the first step towards change, and knowing that people really are trying to take some initiative to help. I think that it's a big step in the right direction to emphasize that you're looking for diversity and to share that you aim to employ people with disabilities. I think that's great. That's a great step forward, and we can work with that. So hopefully the HR department will be receptive to the email that I'm sending them. It's an opportunity for growth and change. So that's all I've got today. I hope this wasn't popping too much and being super annoying and distracting in the video. Thank y'all so much for your support. It seems like there's kind of this wave of exhaustion coming over everyone right now, frustration. So if that's you, make sure that you are taking time for self-care, that you are spending some time by yourself if possible, that you're allowing yourself to stim more than usual if needed. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because there is something in the water right now, and it's just a hard time, y'all. Thank you for your support, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.